If you are listening to this podcast, it means you are searching for someone who understands you, someone who gets you. You are yearning to be understood and to belong. Welcome to the Someone Gets Me podcast, where we help smart, talented, and sensitive people navigate an often insensitive world. Let's welcome your host, ambassador, author, speaker, and mentor, Diane Allen. Diane has the experience and knowledge to educate and inspire, as she has been there and understands your unique intensities and their challenges.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Someone Gets Me. And I have an interview for you today that you are going to be so excited to hear. You're probably going to want to listen to it 2 or 3 times. I have this amazing psychologist with me, and her name is Allison. She is amazing, and she has the most dynamic personality. She has spent most of her career focusing on working with individuals and teams and organizations to help them with their interpersonal skills and to help them be productive in a happy, positive, emotionally healthy way. How about that? So she's got a lot of skills but the thing that I love about her is she has a joy and a vitality that is infectious. And she has an ability to help those of you who are people pleasers and have those boundary issues to not have those people pleasing boundary issues, so that you can come from your authority and your strength of who you are as an amazing person that you are. So she's the perfect guest for this show, I believe. She's a clinical psychologist, but she doesn't act all stuffy. She's like this really fun, cool, amazing, vivacious woman. What I would like us to do is welcome Dr. Alison Agliata, Dr. A, as she's known, and we're going to speak with her, and she's going to enlighten us in ways we've never even understood. We don't even know what's going to happen yet. So welcome on the show, Allison.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, Diane.
Great. So I have a question to start out. I usually like to kind of give a little, backstory about who I'm interviewing and how come you're here. And I think I've already kind of said that about your emotional joy and just being able to be this amazing presence in someone's life and reassure them that you don't have to be a people pleaser. You don't have to put everything in give all your power away to somebody else and lose yourself in that. And it's so important for men, women, boys, girls, kids, adults, teenagers, everybody. I don't think I run into anybody who doesn't have that challenge somewhere, somehow, sometimes. But before we get to that, I was reading about you, and it says in here that you are a United States Air Force military psychologist.
That is correct.
Yeah. So tell us about that. How did you what it brought you to the Air Force and military psychologist? That just sounds so intriguing. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was fantastic training, and as all psychologists go through an internship at the end of their PhD program, you can apply to different places. And at the time, it was very intriguing to me. They had a lot of programs and training that other internships did not have the opportunity to work with special ops and, new trainees, basic trainees. We worked inpatient, we worked outpatient. I got to jump off an airplane. I got to watch PJs and Sears through their training. And it was just an amazing experience to be able to watch the people who serve our country and to be able to support them. So I did that through my training. And then I served 3 years of active duty service, supporting our men and women who are in the military.
Oh, that's awesome. What a great experience to have on both sides of it,
Yes.
Be in there with everyone and then also be that person that they can go to in safety during, what could be a really difficult time.
Absolutely.
I love that part. And then I see another thing about you too. I just have all these curious questions today.
Sure.
When you talked about the joint project with the school system and the sheriff's department, where you found your passion working with children and adults to help them make sound decisions. And when I saw school system and sheriff's department linked in the same sentence, I'm thinking that would be really an interesting thing for you to share a little bit about how that happened and what is it that really excited you about working with the children?
Absolutely. So when I was in graduate school, part of my focus was on children and parents and their interactions with one another. I studied under Dr. Kimberly Rank at University of Central Florida, and she was an amazing mentor. But prior to that, I actually kind of started in between undergraduate school and graduate. I got the opportunity to work with this joint grant program between the Sheriff's Department and Seminole County School System. They had created a program where essentially you came in as a prevention specialist, and I taught kindergarten through 4th grade and had the chance to teach them basic foundational skills on how to make good decision making, discuss peer pressure, teach about drugs and alcohol, safety procedures, how to really operate in the outside world. We worked with a lot of at-risk students, even some students who went to the kind of the youth ranches for correction, and had a chance to really see what these kids needed in terms of their life skills. They weren't provided that at home, a lot of them. So it was really important that they got it through the school system.
That is great. I have family that live in Seminole County, so that is
okay.
That is amazing. See, so your experience and the things that you've had a chance to kind of do and take on, like the Air Force and school systems and a PhD in psychology and all of these amazing things have really poised you to be somebody who has like this unique skill set to offer anybody, I guess, that you work with these amazing paradigms, these amazing ways of seeing things. That's kind of what my picture is in my head. And so I'm sure you've met some people here and there, and maybe you even have this issue of overthinking. Overthinking, both the kind of overthinking from fear and some of it with procrastination, and sometimes with insomnia and sometimes not, is the 100% thing that everybody I've ever surveyed in my audience has said is an issue at some point, some way. Okay. So I'm certain that you have some personal experience with overthinking, and I would love to hear a personal story about how you've worked with yourself to not overthink, but also maybe some tips and some things for our listeners that they could say, oh, I can grab onto that and go try that at home and help myself not obsess so much.
Absolutely. So you are right. I have absolutely personal experience with overthinking. In fact, I tell a lot of people there's not a time I don't think, until I'm asleep, I am thinking for sure. And in some ways, I think it's very helpful to us, right? It can be a strength. And so, I'm always trying to look for the positive spin on whatever it is that we're struggling with. So people who overthink probably have very quick processing, right? So we're thinking about a lot of different areas and aspects of whatever concept we're contemplating. And so it allows us to see a lot of different perspectives. Unfortunately, on the opposite side of that, it also provides an opportunity for us to ruminate unnecessarily. And that is the area that, of course, doesn't help us. So we want to help control that. And, personally, I have found one of the things that really helps me, and hopefully this helps your audience as well, is writing. I love writing. It is a way for me to process information. I am also obviously a talker. So there are times where I need to say things multiple times and talk them out. So, I think between those two things, those are probably my two big go-tos, but I love to write things out. I will change them and edit them 100 times until I feel like it really resonates with me and feels like exactly what I'm feeling inside. And then I always keep a very close group of core friends and family that I know I can rely on in those times where I'm really stuck and I feel like I need to talk it out again. So those are two things that are kind of off the top of my head. But I will tell you, I think on the whole, just taking care of yourself well is also very important when it comes to managing those anxieties or those, overthinking habits. For me, I don't like running at all, but I run because it is my best thinking time. So it will help me to work through whatever it is that I am stuck on.
Right. And I think putting some kind of physical activity with it, right. I don't like running either. And I find myself, if I start running, I just start walking, I forget. So sometimes when I'm walking, or sometimes I'm swimming, or sometimes I'm riding my bicycle, but it's that rhythmic kind of physical activity that gives all of our being, that rhythm, whether it's, the pedals going around, or whether we're swimming, or whether we're running, or even walking. I think that really gets that rhythm together so it can kind of let the system decompress, you know. And then
well, you have so much energy when you're overthinking, right? We, particularly as people when they're gifted empaths, they have a lot to think about. One, because they're always thinking about other people and the stimuli that's incoming to them. And so if that is getting you revved up, you have to put it somewhere, right? I mean, otherwise it just spins in your head consistently, and you need some kind of outlet. So whether that be writing, speaking, running, I always tell people, just go take a shower, go take a walk, go do something that is going to channel that energy in a positive way.
That's genius. So see, you can rewind this episode and listen to that again. That is genius. And it's true that the energy that's behind all of our overthinking requires to be discharged somehow. When we hold on to it, we're just like an accident waiting to happen, turn into some volcano, and we regret that. What Allison just said is very important, and that is to discharge the energy in a healthy, productive way on purpose. Like, that's what you're doing. And it works every time. It's when we try to pretend like we don't have to, or we don't need to, or not me, I don't have that issue, or it works for everybody but me. All of those baloney type excuses don't work. So listen to what she says. She's, that's my personal experience too. And with my clients, do something as long as it's not negative.
And keep that list, handy. I do even tell people, whether it be a post-it in your wallet or whatever it might be, sometimes when we are spinning our wheels or get that, I call it the hamster on the wheel or the buzzing of the bees in our head, we have a really hard time thinking more rationally and figuring out what we're supposed to do with ourselves. So if you have it written down, you have it set for yourself, it's very easy to choose one of those activities and go, okay, I'm going to do this now, and just force the habit.
Great. That's true. Having an anchor thing. So having your list available to you. So we're already getting tons of information, and we just started the show. Check this out. So what goes with overthinking sometimes, in my experience anyway, is procrastination. And, that I'm just not going to do anything, or I overthink myself into a hole or back myself into a corner. And so if somebody's stuck in the procrastination mode, they want to get somewhere, but they can't come off first base. Right. What kinds of things would you help them with?
So, I almost would reframe that and think of it as paralyzation, right? So procrastination means that you're putting something off until the last minute, that you don't want to do it. Well, sometimes we do want to do it. We want to get it done. We just don't know where to start. And so I feel like that is more kind of that freeze mode that we go into at times, because we just can't pick a starting point, or we don't know how to get to the end point that we're hoping for. The best thing I can suggest for that is to really break things down into chunks. So like you would do with a child who is struggling with ADHD, right? They can't listen to multiple step directions at a time and accomplish the task. You want to break it down and go, okay, what's the baby step? So let me start with, give yourself a choice, A, B, C, whatever it might be, but plan out that timeline. Plan out those steps so that you know exactly what path you need to follow, and it doesn't seem so overwhelming, because that overwhelming thing is when, again, we go back to that, rumination over, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. It's too much stimuli. It's too much for me to think through. And you just become overwhelmed and shut down.
Right. And so procrastination kind of is that shutdown, right? And I think the paralyzed part's important too. I know people I've done it before, where I'm like, I don't even know where to start, so I'm just stopping before I even get started,
Right, and a lot of time that comes from fear, right? Most people do want to make progress, and they know what the outcome they want is, but fear or just being overwhelmed or feeling overworked or whatever it might be, there's something else stopping that. As you mentioned, your listeners are very bright, they're very empathic, they relate to people well. So it's not that they aren't capable, certainly. It's that they just need to put those steps into place in order to find success.
So you hear that, right? She's talking to you. You.
I am.
She's talking to you because you are one of those people that have all these amazing gifts. Oh my God, it's amazing. You are awesome. And sometimes we get a little derailed because we live in a world that doesn't quite get it. So she's talking to you. Just thought I'd remind you of that in case you're trying to pretend like she's talking to somebody else. She's not. So what excited you initially about this career path you're on? Because I can hear your passion, and the things you say are like spot on and applicable, and they relate to the regular world. And you are like an amazing regular person, right? So what started you down this amazing path to do these kinds of things?
Oh, well, thank you for the compliment, first off. But what I can tell you is I am extremely passionate about this, especially about helping people find their voice and find their strength and meet their own potential to really be their best selves. So, when I went through, I've gone through military training, I've gone through the education system, I've gone through graduate school in psychology, and went on to gain some other education, all because I feel like this is my place in the world. And it is the thing that I feel strongly about, I feel is a strength of my own. And partially that comes from personal experience. As an empath myself, I have always felt very strongly about connecting with people and making sure that relationships were my priority. So for me, I remember at 5 or 6 thinking about what this person needs from me. So it was a very natural path for me. In 5th grade, I decided I wanted to be a psychologist. And that was because I had the opportunity to be a peer mediator in my 5th grade class. And as soon as I went through the training for that, and of course it was just little conflicts, they would allow us to work with our peers and see if we could help solve the problem. I knew immediately this is it for me. And so, my path has at times tested me, and I've kind of gone out on different branches, but it always has come back to helping others. And so in terms of my narrowing that path, I think I really lean towards helping the people pleasers because that is my experience. And I know how difficult it can be. I know that it can make you feel weak at times and misunderstood. There is so much strength and capacity from these people who have been practicing meeting others' needs for their whole lives. And now they can find a way to be even stronger by meeting their own needs. And it was a difficult journey for me. I had some tough times, but I think all of those things have made me much stronger. And I think they make me a better psychologist and more empathic and more compassionate to those that I work with. And so it's very exciting to me to help a person move from, point A, where they feel like everything's about other people and they're feeling drained and empty and like life isn't reciprocating to them, to finding a voice, finding their strength and their ability to kind of take charge of their life, take care of themselves, so they actually can take care of other people even better if they take care of themselves. And that's a realization that takes a process to get there.
That is a great story, and often we're very good at teaching those things that we've survived ourselves on some level or not. And as I'm listening to you, I remember the phrase that I've heard a million times, the hardships we go through make us better or bitter.
Yes.
And have had several interviews on this show where the person said almost the exact same kind of idea that, they had a challenge themselves of some kind, and they took that challenge and they looked for the opportunity to serve others in a way that challenge ended up being the asset. And that is, I think, something that everyone can be reminded of all the time because, we're all go through stuff, and everybody has things. Nobody gets a free ticket. Nobody gets out of the human experience of all of the things we go through, psychologist or not, right?
Yes.
And so when we can take those experiences and see how they can serve, I think that makes us even more uniquely qualified because there's not only the personal experience, as in your case and also in mine, we have the education to go with it. So it's the yes and the experience and the knowledge, and you're an empath and intuitive, so you got the intuition. So it's like when you put all three together, it's like this perfect harmony to be able to really help guide somebody in a way that is multidimensional. It's just not book knowledge. It's just not, oh, I did it. It's look at all the different things. So that's really amazing that you took your life experiences and turned them into something so powerful to help people.
Well, I often joke with my friends that, as a psychologist, people kind of expect you to have all the answers and to, behave in a certain way and have your life play out a certain way, because you understand human behavior. But you're still a human being, right? So, you have to have your own experiences and your own struggles and your own successes as well. And I think part of the beauty of that is when you can be vulnerable and you can share those things, that's what makes the connection with others even stronger. That's what makes your compassion grow. That's what makes your empathy grow for others. And you want to make sure that other people succeed the same way that you have found your path, or that they find their own path. And you want to help them with that. That for me, this is where I know I'm meant to be. And that feels really good. I want other people to feel that too.
That's awesome. So do you have a story about any success maybe, or a neat, person that you helped, or something that you did that when you step back and you go, wow, that I was in the right place at the right time and I was able to really serve that person in a way that, kind of opens my heart. Do you have a story like that you could share with us?
Sure. I've got a couple. I'll go with one from back when I was a military psychologist. There was a particular officer who was coming for treatment. And in the military world, there's still a stigma to mental health, right? Receiving any kind of assistance is looked at as risking your career. Especially, I worked on a nuclear base. So if someone was starting treatment, oftentimes they were taken off their nuclear duties because they don't want people struggling dealing with nuclear weapons, which makes a lot of sense, right? I was seeing this particular person and he did not want to see me at first. As a matter of fact, I was a young female psychologist and he was higher ranking than me. And I think he had a difficult time believing that I could help him. So he asked if there was someone else, as a matter of fact, when I offered my services, and there wasn't at the time. So he was stuck with me, and we started the session. He said, you know what? He said, I know this is going to ruin my career. He said, at this point, I don't care. He said, I am having suicidal thoughts. I am, if I don't get help, I'm not going to survive. I said, okay. I said, well, let's hear what things are about. And the long and short of his story, without sharing too much, is basically he had lost a child due to a health incident, and it had torn his family apart. He and his wife had divorced. They had another child together, and he just had lost his way. And you can see he was very, very distraught. To me, building rapport, right there, connecting with him was the goal. Because if I couldn't do that, I could not help him. And so, this was a guy who really struggled even accepting help, really wanted to help his child and his ex-wife move through this issue as well, but really couldn't even help himself at the moment. And eventually, I knew I connected with him when he brought in a photo album of his child who had passed. That was the moment I felt like I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. And eventually he not only recovered and went back to work and was very successful in his career, but he remarried his wife and they were able to reunite their family, and he did very, very well. So it was a nice, successful story to see.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that just really speaks to your desire to have that human connection and building rapport. And it gives us all hope, because I think a lot of people go through those dark nights and that hopelessness. And, I don't know that there's a pain worse than losing a child. That's like right at the top of the list, especially when it's something that you're powerless over, and as a parent, and for you to be able to be there and be present and really, he didn't lose his career. He was able to, heal and then transcend and include that history, but yet transcend it so he could have a whole new life. That's beautiful.
Oh, thanks. And a lot about it, it is about trust, especially when you're working with someone. Mm-hmm. As a coach or as a therapist, those things are really the number one important factor. And that's even shown in research, that is what creates a successful environment. And the same goes for education. When you have children in the care of an adult, the ability to connect and make sure that they understand that they're cared about and someone has good intention and wants what's best for them, those are the things that help children have the best learning environment available.
Oh, that's perfect. So tell everybody a little bit about the kind of work you're doing now and where you're taking this amazing career of yours and your wonderful life, because you live in Tampa,
I
right?
do, yes.
And that's real close to me because I'm in St. Petersburg in Florida, paradise. We beautiful
Yeah.
here. When you look forward and you look for how you want to continue to keep serving and bringing your gift to the world, what do you see? What are you creating?
My goal, I think, in all of this is to continue in a couple different ways. One, I love working with my individual clients. So I do see individual clients still and do coaching in that respect to, as I said, it tends to be more of the people pleasers that come my way because that's my area. But in general, the interpersonal skills, the emotional intelligence, the communication, and as that builds, I have a lot of young leaders coming my way. It's interesting to see the millennials kind of investment in this, but also, on the older side, if someone is really struggling with their team and they realize that a lot of it has to do with how they're interacting with one another, I am able to come into a corporation or an organization and do teamwork where we start with a personality assessment. I usually use the People Map, which is something I'm trained on. If you haven't looked up Mike Lillibridge and the People Map, it's a great tool. And we do a short assessment. We talk about what the strengths and challenges are of each type of personality. And then we talk about how we interact with one another. So how can we be a more effective team, a more productive team, and make sure that you have a positive corporate culture. So it's really fun to be able to work with people individually, whether it be on their professional side or personal life, and then also to get to see people within their organizations and companies and see the impact that coaching and interpersonal skills and emotional intelligence and communication can make, not only just in one setting, but throughout their lives for a better quality of life.
Oh, that's great. So do you differentiate between coaching and therapy?
I do, very much so.
Can you explain what the difference is for our listeners?
Absolutely. So here's how I typically explain it. So in therapy, or oftentimes we're working with someone who has some either kind of deficit or something that you feel like needs to be fixed, right? So there's something that's broken in their life. And we want to make sure that they get back up to their normal level of functioning. In coaching, what I see, that I look at it as a positive psychology concept, and that they're already at their normal functioning level, but they want to take it a step higher. They're not satisfied with the status quo. They're not satisfied with saying, okay, I'm doing fine. I want to do great things. I want to meet my potential. I want to be amazing, at whatever part of their life they're looking for. And that's where coaching comes in. Somebody who is functioning well, but maybe just needs a little support in one area, tutoring, remediation in an area, or really wants to just build their skills so that they feel like they are at their highest level.
And so you're more of a coach than a therapist person, because I hear you speaking more about taking that person and helping them get to the next level than fixing what was wrong.
Yes. I mean, I obviously am a psychologist. I am qualified to do therapy, but I do not do therapy anymore. I do coaching now, executive coaching, and work with individuals and companies.
Great. It fits you, because when I look at you and I talk to you and I listen to you, I think, no, this is too positive and upbeat to be therapy. She's doing something different, and, coaching toward goals that way, to me makes a lot of sense. I do a lot of mentoring with people and not as much coaching, more mentoring. So it's interesting. And I appreciate that your mindset is not looking for what's wrong.
No, it's definitely in the positive. And that's the thing I love about coaching. I know the coaching word is used kind of haphazardly right now as well. So I do think it's important to look at people's credentials when, they're offering services of that sort. But as a whole, I really see it encompassing, it's just training, right? We're training, whether we train individuals, whether we're doing public speaking and presenting to a group, or whether we're working with a team, all of those areas, it's really education and training and making sure people have the knowledge they need to make the best decisions for their life and their team.
Oh, great. So you all have been listening to Dr. Alison Agliata, and she is wise beyond her years and very experienced. And so I have one last question, and that is there anything that you would like to share with our wonderful listeners that you would like them to leave this podcast and have that kind of anchoring memory?
I guess the one thing I would like to make sure as a message to any audience really is that I hope people are coming to a place of realization that living a more authentic life, a life that resonates with them, that feels aligned with their morals and ethics and values, their goals in life, and is extremely important, more important than they would believe in terms of the quality of life that they could live. And so to me, in order to do that, and this may not be true for everyone, but relationships and connecting with one another are absolutely essential for those who are in your life, whether it be 3 people or 300 people. Everyone needs someone. And focusing on those connections will make you much stronger, will make you much happier, much more content in your life. And the best way to do that is to be vulnerable, to be willing to communicate well, and being willing to connect with one another.
So you heard it from Dr. Alison Agliata, that connection is the correction, which you hear me say all the time too. And that authenticity is the number one respected trait, and that it's so important. So go out there and listen to her words, and let's follow directions, right? Let's be authentic and allow ourselves to be vulnerable and connected to ourselves and to others, because it's in those relationships that we are all benefiting. So I'd like to thank you, Allison, for coming on the show today and spending all this time with us and sharing your great knowledge and enthusiasm for life and all of the good you're doing for people. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. Appreciate that.
So everybody, until the next episode, remember to keep your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, and you are a rock star. So go out there, play your music, and go for it.
Are you tired of searching for someone who understands you? Join our Facebook group, Someone Gets Me. In this group, you will be able to connect with others who are intense, sensitive, smart, talented, and wanting to be understood. Diane shares her insights and teachings, and you can connect with others. Join today.